Okay, so now let's make the castle. First, let's check out where we're going to place the castle. Zoom out of this and let's press play. That's where it lands. Okay, so firstly I noticed this thing does not have a rigged body tag, so let's add our rigged body tag to it. Wherever it was, there it is. Grass, now it has a rigged body. Wait, no, wrong tag. It should be a collider body because we don't want it falling anywhere. So let's go back to the beginning, press play. Okay, good. And we have a rolling rock. But I think that's not really far enough because it means that the castle is going to be pretty close to the catapult. We want the castle to be somewhere around here at least. So let's make the spring which launches the rock. Let's select it here under the catapult. And let's increase the stiffness to like 8. And now let's press play. Whoa, there we go. Okay, that's way too far. So let's move it back, change it to like 6, and press play. Still too far. Let's give it a 4. There we go, that seems about right. So now let's select our dynamic tag. Let's go cache and bake all. And now we can play this forward and backwards so we always know where it's landing. So this is the approximate location of where we're landing so this is where our castle is going to be. So around here somewhere, the front wall. So let's get some cylinders. Let's go into the top view. Let's move these over here, our cylinders. Let's press Ctrl Alt C to make another cylinder. Move it across. It's going to be our castle towers. And and there'll be like a little cube. But when you have the move tool, you don't have to click on the arrows. You can just click on empty space and move it. So if it's off the screen and the little blue arrow is pointing where it is, just click on an empty space and drag down and it'll come in. So let's scale it down there. And let's get all of these and let's move them up. This is just us setting an approximate size, so a bit too high. Let's press Alt T. Let's scale these guys down a bit. Okay, let's move them back. So around here, yeah, that seems about right. Let's get this tree line and let's move it back. It's a bit too close to the castle right now. Okay, sweet. So that's our castle. Let's Alt G this, Control Alt C, make a null instance, and move it, make the instance, yeah, and just move it back. Okay, now we can take these, we can make a null by pressing Alt G, and we'll call this the castle locator. And then we Control C and we move it to a new scene and press Control V. And now we can reset the PSR, so tilde X in my case, or you can go Shift C and reset PSR. Or if you have a shortcut, you can hit that. So now that we have the castle here, we can start building it. Let's see, the first thing I'm going to go through is we're going to get these walls. And we're going to delete them because we don't need this wall. And let's get our spline tool out. Let's get say like a B-spline. And let's start building the front little gate area with the little hole in it for people to walk through. So let's turn on snapping, enable snapping. Let's go, we have 2D snapping. And let's turn on, where is it? Grid plane, guide snapping, no, not guide, work plane, grid point snapping. So now when we click and make a point, it'll snap to the intersections. So let's click here, move it up, then move another 3 corners up here, then move it across. Actually, we're going the wrong way. So let's click this spline and let's select all of these points. Go right click and go, there should be a reverse reverse sequence. There you go. So now to make a new point, we just control click and drag the point. We just control click and drag anywhere, and we'll make a new point starting at the end of the line. So control click here, control click up here, control click. So we have 3 points at every corner to make them a strong corner. And we go here. Oh, we missed a point here, so we can control click on the spline and we'll get another point there. Okay, so now that we have this, we need to mirror this, because we're going to be the same on both sides. Now mirroring doesn't really work. Like if you use a symmetry object and you place it in there, you get the right looking spline, but if you then place the symmetry object into an extrude, you don't get a full object inside, because these points aren't welded together. Like they just, I don't know, even if you make it editable and you have the spline and you place it underneath, it still doesn't do that. Because here, if you select, there's still 2 points. So if you go Shift V, and if you want to see this little thing here, which tells you how many points you have selected, you press Shift V, and then you go HUD, and there is a point selected somewhere here. Yeah, selected points, selected edges, selected polygons. You can also tick all these things if you want to see other information in your heads-up display. So, you want these points, and you need to put them together. And for that, you need to press Join Segment. But when you do that, you'll realize that you lose this segment here. But the thing is that you just, but the problem with that is that we can do that, but now we look, the corners, they're all like, they're not, you know, they're not 1 or 2 points, they're like, you know, there's 15 points there. So this is not what we want to do. We want to undo this. We want to go back to our symmetry when we had 2 splines, and these splines, nope, still go. There you go. Now we have, you know, simple splines, which are B splines. Pull this out. What we want to do is we want to move this axis, which is this axis. We want to move it to the 0 position. So on the X, we want to move it to 0. And now we want to clone this spline and rotate it around. No, not the axis. Don't forget to deselect this. And rotate around holding the Shift key so it's 180 degrees. And now we select both these splines and we right click and we go current state to object. Nope. We go connect objects plus delete. And now if we put it into a extrude NURBS, we still have the same problem, but we have a lot less points. So now we select these points. Make sure you have 2 points selected. Right click and you go join segment. And then on the spline properties, you go close spline. And ta-da! We have our little entrance. Okay. Don't forget, let's add some caps to make it smoother. So fillet cap, radius maybe 2 centimeters. Seems about right. Okay, let's move this guy across. Also, let's not forget to delete these Fong tags because we don't want them. Okay, so in the model tool, this guy is pretty much centered. Yeah. So let's move this across a bit. Let's turn off snapping. Let's move these guys to the balanced. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to add some fillets on these. We want to get this. Okay, we're working in the wrong direction. So this is the front of the castle. Let's move this guy across. Okay, so let's add some fillets to this guy. Segments, just 1 is enough, and make it also like 2 centimeters. So we have those little kind of castle walls. Also here, for example, now because we don't have that many points, we can still edit it. For example, right now I don't like this squareness. I want this to be more of a round entrance. So I move these points down and I scale these points together. Maybe even I move them up. Move this whole down. Let's scale these guys out a bit. Let's move this point up a bit. See, and now it's more like a round castle entrance. Let's move this further down. There you go. Lovely. Okay, so this is going to be our tower cylinder 1. Now let's make another cylinder. Let's control click and drag this guy up to make the top part of the tower. It's a bit too tall, so let's get our first one. It's Alt T. Make sure you're in object mode. Let's drag them down a bit. Now get the next, this one, and let's move them down just with the normal move tool. And press Alt T and scale it down, because this is just going to be the part with the little windows in it. And now we want to bull out some windows. So let's make a cube. Let's go to the scale tool and scale them down. Maybe make them a bit like this and scale them down. And we're going to put a MoGraph cloner into this object by holding the Shift key. And then we're going to zero out all the coordinates, reset PSR, so tilde X, and it'll be in the middle of this cylinder. And we'll put this cube under this cloner, and we'll change this cloner to radial. And now as you can see, it's a circle, but this is not the correct radial for us. We want the radial to be, nope, XZ. Yep, good. So now you can see they're going to bull out. We're going to cut out the windows with this thing. So let's scale these cubes down a bit. We can narrow them a bit. Okay. However, see, as you see, they're not really aligned to the right polygons. That's because we have too many of them at the moment. So let's switch it down to 4. And now they're still not aligned, but now they're all equally offset. So what we do is we just get the cloner and we just rotate them by holding, no, actually we just rotate it around. So you see this is 15 degrees approximately, so we change this to 15, and now they'll be perfectly aligned. And if we want, we can make 6 of them and they'll still be all correctly aligned. And I like 6, let's do 6. So now we need to bool this out. So let's hold the Alt key and make a bool object while having the tower selected with the cloner inside. Now get the cloner and just drag it on top of the tower, just so they're both in the bool object, and then just rearrange them until you get the right result. So there it is. You have tower first, then you have the bool object. For the windows, I like to make a nice dark black material, so like that, and apply it to the cloner. Then the inside of them will be black. Now right now I think the windows aren't anywhere near, they're too big. So let's get our little cube again, and let's tilde X it as well, so it's inside the cloner in the middle. And let's just narrow it down so the holes are nice and, so they're like archer slits for people to shoot arrows through. Okay, good, I like this. As you see, this is cloned onto the back instance, but not onto the side instance of the tower. So what you're going to do for that is we're going to get this is our tower instance. Oops. Tower instance. What we're going to do is we want to change in attributes. We want to change it from the cylinder. We want to change it to the bool. Nope. We want to change it to this whole null object. No. We want to group this tower and this tower together. Yeah, that's probably the best way to do it. Or we can just, yeah, we want to, let's group these together and then get the tower. There you go. Just have to fix its offset a bit because the axis position changed. There you go. Now we have our towers the same in all places. So if we change the amount of windows here, change it back to 4, we have 4 windows on each tower. Okay, now let's copy, let's control click and drag this guy out, because this is going to be out top, and let's move him up. And now let's go Alt T and scale this guy down. Okay, sweet. Now let's make this editable, because now we're going to be modeling some of the little blocks on top to make it editable. Let's actually scale it out a bit, so it's a bit bigger than the, just a bit. There you go. Now let's go into polygon faces. Let's go to the knife tool, which is in loop mode, and let's turn off snapping here. We don't need it. And let's cut about, this is going to be the thickness of those turrets on top. And let's select these polygons, and these polygons, and these polygons, and these 2 polygons, and these 2, and these 2. And now if you have anything after R14, I think, or maybe R15, you can control click and drag up to make the little tower heads. However, if you have an older version, you'll have to use an extrude which might not really work the way you want. So what I recommend you do is you press the extrude, which is right click extrude, and then you here you offset set it to 0, and you press apply, and then you can just move them up, basically just cloning the polygons. So the same thing, but in R15 they made it a bit easier to do. And now you have your little tops of towers. If you want, you can stick some flags into there. However, right now I don't like the proportions of all this. They seem a bit off. So let's squash this guy down a bit. Now back to our selection tool. Let's get this bull and with the tower hat, and let's move him down. This looks a bit nicer. Where's our? Let's get these splines and select these top splines, and let's move them up a bit. That looks about right. Maybe these also need to be shrunk down a bit. Let's go Alt T, oops, Alt T, turn off Alt render region, Alt T, and let's just drag them down a bit. Let's get our cloner object, now move tool, and let's move him down a bit. Maybe get our little cube and adjust that size, and let's move our tower hats down as well. Let's call them tower hat. Maybe a bit higher up. There we go. Okay, sweet. So we're doing pretty well here in making this castle. Okay, now I want to add a bit of these little tower things. I want to add them here as well. So let's do that. Let's get a cube. Let's move him across here. Let's move him up so his edge aligns with the top of that. Let's press Alt T and just drag him down. Now let's go to our regular move tool. Let's click the little green spot here and let's shrink him down. Shrink him down symmetrically on both sides. It's a bit too much shrinking. Pull him out again. Looks about right. Now don't forget these towers, they can't be intersecting because we'll be doing dynamics with them, so make sure nothing here is intersecting with each other. Otherwise they'll end up shooting out in different directions. Okay, good. So let's move this guy forward a bit. Now how we're going to do this is in this cube here, we're going to increase the amount of X segments. I think it's a good number. And we're going to increase the Z segments to 1. Now we're going to go to edge mode, and we're going to make it editable by pressing the C key of this button. And we're going to just double click on this edge. If that doesn't work, you can go V key, and you go select and loop selection, and just select the loop. And then let's just move it over a bit closer here. Okay, now let's select the faces again. We'll go to face mode, and same as we did on top of the tower, just holding the shift key, we can select these faces and control click and drag them up, or extrude. Here you can just do a regular extrude. It'll work just fine because the faces are flat. And now we want to add a bit of bevel. So what we're going to do is we're going to select these points here, these faces here, and we're going to press the I key for inner extrude, and we're going to just click and drag a little bit, and then we're going to move them out, and we're going to delete this font tag, and there we go. We have a little bevel on our tower thing. Now I think we should also move this cube. Let's go to model tool, move tool. Let's move him down a bit. Okay, and again we're doing it backwards, so let's go to our rotate tool. Let's rotate this guy around, and let's move him out a bit. There you go. Okay, so our castle is nearly done. Now we just need to add the other 4 walls. So let's group this together and press Alt G. This is going to be our main gate. Let's go control click and drag this and call this wall segment. And let's move this guy back here and rotate him around. And what we want to do is we want to get rid of the points in this spline which make the gate. So go to point mode, and let's just select all of these points here. We don't need them, press delete. And now we have a flat wall with the little bevel and little curved edges. there we have it. Now maybe move this instance across a bit so they're not intersecting. Okay, and now this wall segment, we can just press Ctrl-Alt-C to create an instance and rotate it 90 degrees. And we can move one here. Let's move it closer to the wall here. And then we can just Control-click and drag it and rotate it 180 degrees while holding the Shift key. And then this back instance, let's just move it across so it's a bit closer. And this wall, we need to also move this wall segment closer together. Okay, and we have our castle. So let's grab this castle and let's move him back into the main scene. Let's group all of this together. Not all, just the top part. And press, actually let's just move him into the castle. Open the castle locator and move everything here into the castle locator. And while we're here, we might as well make sure that everything's grouped correctly, because for dynamics we want each object here to be a separate object in dynamics. So let's make this editable so that we have one tower instance. Okay, we're going to delete this and we're going to change this tower instance. We're going to make it look at, this is the main tower. So let's pull this out. Let's call this the tower base. And this instance is going to be looking at the tower base. Okay, good. And now we have 3 of them, and this is also a tower instance? No? Okay, good. So let's pull this instance out and Control-click and drag to make another one here. Okay, let's pull this instance out of the null. We don't need this null. This is tower base, this is main gauge, this is wall segment. Okay, good. So now these are all separate. We can also test if these work by moving these guys up. And let's apply, let's move them up here. Let's make a little floor. And here let's apply a rigged body to them. And we can right click on this and we can copy tag to children and delete this one. And this one we can make a collider body. And let's make it bigger. And now let's press play. And we see that doesn't work at all. It may be because our segments, I wonder what happens there. Let's go to these settings, let's select these collisions, and let's go collision, and inherit tag compound collision shape. And press play. Nope. Okay, let's do one segment at a time. Let's see what our problem is. So, let's delete all these tags. Wall segment. Press play. That's the problem. They applied the tag to all the objects inside. Let's undo this. That was a bad idea. Delete this tag. Let's just select all these objects and let's create rigged body. And make this plane bigger and press play. And they fall right through because this plane doesn't have a collider body tag. And press play. There you go. Something still fall through? Yes, something still fell through. Yes, because these, see these the instances, they're fine, but the objects that are actual objects, that's where we need to select all these tags, and we need to go to dynamics, and no collision, and we need to go compound collision shape for inherit tag. And now if we press play, there you go, everything collides. So don't forget, on these guys, let's turn off in collision, let's put our friction up to 90, and our bounce down to like 10, and let's press play. There you go, much better. Okay, so let's get this castle now, and press Ctrl-C, and let's go to our catapult scene, and press Control V. And right now you notice the castle is all the way over there. The easy way to move it is we move it under the old castle locator and we press tilde-X, and then we move it out of the castle locator and we delete the old castle locator. And there you go, we have it in the right place very quickly. So let's scroll back and let's oops. Let's, you guys see it kind of falls apart. That's not right. So I think it might be because we're intersecting with something. So let's move this guy up a bit. And let's press play. Nope. Let's see where our problems are. Okay. Maybe our walls aren't thick enough. Ah, no, I know the problem. It's because these castles, as the same thing with the rock happened, it's like a shrink wrap. So we're getting the intersecting model is going through here, and because of that, it's interfering with this guy. So what we want to do is we want to select all of these guys. I'm going to change the dynamics from collision. No, just the towers really. Yeah, the towers here. They're the ones that are causing problems. And I want to change this towers to a collision shape of moving mesh. Now if we press play, nope, still same problem. Okay, why won't you balance? Let's see if we put the main gate out here and we press play, it stands still. Okay, maybe these towers, this tower and this, no, this tower and this tower, maybe they're too close to that wall. Okay, that's better. So maybe these two towers are also too close. Okay, that's better, we're already standing. So if we move this castle locator down to make sure it's very close to the floor, and we press play. Good, there you go, it's standing. Okay, so once we have it standing like this, we select all of these tags, and once again we go dynamics and we go set initial state. Now I'm going to go to 0 and we press play. It's just going to be standing there. Exactly what we want. So let's press play and watch what happens when the boulder hits it. And as you see, the boulder keeps going, and remember that's because it's cached. So what we want to do is we want to select any of the dynamics tags and go to cache and go clear all cache. But make sure when you clear all the cache, you clear it at frame 0. If you clear it any other frame, it can stuff up your whole dynamics thing. You'll have dynamics starting in the wrong spot. So you want to go back to 0 and clear all the cache. And now bake all the objects. And now press play. There we go, see, and it bounces back. Rolls a bit far, but we get it knocking down a wall. Okay, in the next part, I'll show you how to knock down all the other walls and add a bit of boom to the whole explosion.